everybody for joining us here today. Just as a reminder, this is going to be recorded and will be sent out to everyone to watch afterwards, as well as posted on our YouTube channel. We do ask that if you're not engaging with Cindy during this live coaching hour, that you do remain on mute, and there will be time to get to everyone if you have questions. But other than that, thanks again for joining us. And we're going to go through the introductions, logistics, and then we're going to get right to the coaching hour. So we are Vida. For those of you coming to us from Eventbrite, we are a life, health and wellness, leadership, and career coaching company. And my name is Justice, and I'm a relationship strategist here on the team. And what that means is when you're ready to have a conversation to explore coaching further and what that could look like for you, you're going to have a half-hour conversation with someone on my team. And during that time, we're going to ask you some deeper questions just to get to know more about you and your current situation and what you ideally hope to get out of your coaching relationship. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and drop the link to my calendar because it is first come, first serve. And anybody coming to us from an event like this, you do get your first session free. So something to consider when thinking about budgeting. But a little bit more about how this event in particular is going to work, because this is one of our free coaching hours. So it's a little bit different than our normal webinars. We're going to ask that you raise your hand in Zoom, and we're going to call on people at random. We will have a little bit of a queue as people raise their hands, so I'll be monitoring that. And then we ask that you come off of mute and turn on your video to talk to us about what's going on. Cindy's more than happy and excited to get into the coaching today. So we're going to try to get to everyone, but we are going to prioritize people who are comfortable coming onto camera and off of mute, just to get a sense of what an actual coaching session could look like with one of our coaches here. Again, recording will be posted on YouTube and sent via email. So just choose what you want to share out. And yes, so with that being said, we have Coach Cindy with us here today. So Cindy, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to you, and we will go from there. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen, and the floor is all yours.
That's great. Oh, I'm so excited. I see. Okay. I was going to say some people are still on video, which is fine. But, you know, if you want to get off video or on, however you want to do it. So welcome, everybody. I am absolutely so excited. I love doing these anyway, but my favorite coaching is in relationship. I do coaching with people, individuals looking for love. I do coaching with couples, all different kinds of relationship coaching. And I think the reason I have such a passion for it is because of my own personal journey in self-love. I've written a book about self-love. I've actually written 2 books, but my first book was called Clear, Connect, Create, A Powerful Path to Self-Love. And what I've realized, I was thinking about the title, like Finding the One. What I realized I discovered was finding the one was actually me. Of course, many of us here are looking for love, a partner, and that's what eventually happened for me. But the key is really your own journey of self-love. And that's very fundamental to the work that I do. If you think of building a house, you have to have a strong foundation. And in order to have boundaries, be able to say no, know what you deserve, the first part of the journey is really your relationship with self. The other thing I wanted to share before we get into the questions and answers is a methodology that I use in my personal coaching. And it is those same words as in the title of my book, which is Clear, Connect, Create. So what does that mean? And what does that mean in terms of the journey of finding the one and also enhancing the relationship that you're currently in? If you think about a garden analogy, I think that's the best way that I can describe it. If any of you have a garden or have ever gardened, when I was a little girl, I was always helping my mother in this rose garden that she had, which I love being there. And we lived in Columbus, Ohio. There were so many dandelions everywhere. I don't know where they've gone, probably the chemicals, but we had lots of dandelions, and my job was to weed. She let me weed. And I used to pick the tops off of those dandelions, but they kept growing back. So what I realized when I started coaching was what I do with people is weed their garden. In order to plant a beautiful rose garden, you can't plant it on top of weeds. So we're looking for love, or we're in a relationship, but we have fears, we have limiting beliefs, we have history that gets in the way of having a great relationship. So I love working with people about that. And I hope you'll ask questions around that. How do you clear? What kinds of things? How do you work through your history? You know, I had lots of bad relationships, difficult relationships, because I had a lot of limiting beliefs about what I thought was possible. And they came from my history. So I had to do all that work. And last November, I got married. You just saw a picture of my wedding day. And I'm finally in a phenomenal, healthy, wonderful relationship. I actually had a belief that all men would leave. And I'm not going to go into my story about that, but they would. They'd either emotionally or physically leave. Well, I cleared that with myself, just like I do with the coaching. And I now have a man that wants to be around me so much, sometimes I have to send him out to not be constantly with me, but it's wonderful, a loyal, wonderful man. So it's great. What is the connect? So the connect in the garden. So the clearing is weeding the garden, weeding the beliefs, the fears, the history. The connect in a garden is putting the right water, the fertilizer, just to make those roses grow. In your life, if you have goals, but you've got weeds and you're not watering, you're not nurturing yourself, you're not discovering your power, your passion, your gifts, your talents. That's the work I love doing with people, to reawaken their power. Many of us through life have contracted somehow through the experiences we've had. So this is about expanding back into the knowing of your magnificence. And then finally create. Finally, when you've weeded and you've watered and you've fertilized, it's time to plant those seeds. Same thing with your goals. You're ready for the one, or you're ready to have a better relationship with the person that you're having a relationship with. How do you do that? The key is communication. One of my teachers, Werner Erhard, I've had many different teachers, said, love is a function of communication. And I believe that. So I teach a lot of communication tools, and that's a big part of it. If you're looking for love, I also love to work with people on visioning. I use a lot of visualization and tools that enhance that, bringing forth that right person after you've done your personal work. So that's a little bit of an intro, a little taste of what I do, but I'd love to, if Justice, if you're ready, if there's any questions coming up right now, I'd love to start interacting with people with any concerns or questions that they may have. Are we ever done with our personal work? No. I think it is ongoing. I think it's, some people describe it like an onion where the layers keep peeling off. And the more you do, though, the more joy and vitality and easier it is to manifest.
All right, we have our first hand raised, so I'm going to spotlight Susan.
Hi, Susan. Susan happens to be a good friend of mine, so I'm very excited she's here and I want to hear her question.
Well, I'm curious about being very clear in the beginning of the relationship, and even for a really long time in a relationship, that he's the one. 45 years later, from time to time, I think, what if I could be with someone else? Or what if he's not the one anymore? And I don't want to go anywhere and I'm not expecting someone else. I don't have anyone else, but I have these thoughts that come up that we've outgrown each other or we're not interested in each other that much anymore. And I just wonder, how do you keep the one being the one?
I love that. That's a great, great question. I'm going to describe it in terms of an analogy I heard that I love. In the beginning of a relationship, it's like a beautiful fruit tree that's very abundant with lots and lots of fruit. And you start picking the fruit, right? And you start taking each other for granted, not being as excited, being a little bored with their stories, irritated, grievances, etc. If you don't water the tree will die. So what happens in relationships, sometimes we're at different stages of that tree being starting to die. I could answer it a million different ways if I had hours or I was working with you, but I'm going to just give you a little piece. First of all, as I said before, the communication, and Susan knows this very well, is key. And something that really works and that I work with couples or individuals and I suggest is having a weekly or more often, could be daily, but a weekly communication session where there's many different tools that I use. Some are just about speaking and listening and not interrupting. You have to have ground rules, but getting out those little irritations and grievances begins to bring back the energy and the love. So that's one thing. And there's one other thing I wanted to say. I remembered this today as I was thinking about this workshop. There's an article in the New York Times, I think it's called 36 Questions That Lead to Love. We become disinterested, and sometimes we like to be more interesting than interested, but what really works is being more interested than interesting. And this article has 36 incredible questions that you can begin to discover that man again. Start asking questions, and they're so fabulous about different areas that you may not have ever discussed. So get curious about your partner.
Thank you. Very well.
Susan.
Okay, thank you so much, Susan. In the chat, we have a question that says, can you please speak more on how you were able to weed out things before being available to marry?
Can you say that once more? Because I see one here that I just read and got confused. Can you say that one more time?
Yes, it says, please speak more on how you were able to weed out things before being available to marry.
Absolutely. And I took my time. I will tell you, I was in other long-term relationships. I was in a relationship for 15 years, but it wasn't a healthy relationship. And then I took a period of time off, which I do recommend. Sometimes I work with people and they're like, I'm ready. And I'm like, well, first do the work on yourself. Take a little time before you jump in, because if you've got wounds, if you've got issues, sometimes we attract someone that's got that similar, maybe a different story, but similar. So the healthier you are, the better. So for example, the weed that I mentioned in terms of creating non-available men. First thing I did was discover that I had that limiting belief. And I work with people on this. Where did it come from? Well, I had a father that didn't know how to show emotion. When he was going through upsetting things, he'd just go to the couch and maybe not speak for a weekend. I, as a little girl, interpreted that as like, I did something wrong and where did daddy go? When really he was just doing his own process. Things like that happen in our history, either with our parents or with other relationships, have a tremendous effect. So you have to look at what are your limiting beliefs? I started thinking there's no good men at my age, or they won't want anyone this old or whatever. I took that belief, I flipped it to the positive, even though I didn't believe it yet. And I started affirming that I create a wonderful man that's loyal and available, et cetera, et cetera. So that was one way, affirming, visioning. You have to kind of dig in first, though, and get the weed out. Hope that helped.
All right, thank you. Next we have, how do you make room for someone in your life? I am a caretaker for my 88-year-old mom who has dementia. How do I even begin to think of having someone in my life? At the same time, delaying and delaying means I'm not living my own life.
Right. Well, that I understand that, and I know it takes a lot of time. One of the things, I do work with a lot of people who are going through this where they're caretaking a family member. One thing I might suggest is just looking at, can you get any support to have more time for yourself? Either other family members or outside support. I don't know if that's possible, but that's part of your own self-love journey of knowing that you do deserve, no matter what is happening in your life, if possible, time for yourself. And then I suggest maybe doing some individual work on yourself to make sure that you're ready. And then maybe you just start slowly. I think with my husband, I really took it slow and created a friendship. So maybe it's just, your pen pals or your phone friends, or you just take time during this time where you don't have a lot of time. There's so much more, but we need more time together to go into it, but hopefully that was helpful.
All right, and then the next question that we have is, what are some of the signs it's time to leave a job or industry? What are some of the steps to find out and decipher through your thoughts?
Are we talking about a job?
Oh, it looks as though that one is talking about a job or
And
industry.
that's fine, because one of the things I didn't say is, yes, I have a passion for working with people. I'm a life coach, so every area I work on, including career. But I would say, and it's interesting that you say, when is the time to actually leave a job? And I don't know your circumstances, but it's sort of like, when's the time to leave a relationship? I think when your gut, and you have to, develop that intuition or that gut, is saying, this doesn't feel good anymore. They're demanding too much. It's not reciprocal. I'm not, I'm putting out too much and I'm not getting back. I think start to notice and be aware of the signs that are saying, I deserve more. It doesn't feel like a fit. This isn't what I have a passion for anymore. Just really begin to take some time to feel what you're feeling. That would be the beginning.
All right, next up we have, yes, I just left my job. Of this, 1 second, it's a comment to what you were just saying. It looks as though at this point in time, we don't have any more questions. I'd love to kind of, Sid, if you want to expand a little bit on some of your other life coaching areas in case someone doesn't have a relationship question, but maybe more of these, finding the one in your career than just find the one in passion for life. You want to expand on that a little bit?
Yes, but before I do that, I did want to say, may I say a little bit more about something about relationship coaching? Oh, we do have a question. What types of coaching clients do you take? What areas? What is your coaching style? Absolutely. Can I speak to that, Justice? Does that
Absolutely.
make sense? Okay,
Absolutely.
great. Okay. So as I mentioned, I am a life coach. I do some health and well-being coaching. My second book I wrote was about overcoming cancer. So it's called Transcend Your Diagnosis, Mapping a Path to Optimal Well-Being. That book was about my journey through cancer, but I love to work with people on any life challenge, life transition, going through divorce, changing a job, looking at what their passion is in terms of their career. I do have a woman I'm working with that is a caregiver dealing with that, couples work, every area of finances. My style, I would say, is I'm a very positive person, so I like to empower and inspire. In the coaching that we do, it's a lot of listening, but then also in between sessions, we do exercises, assignments, tools, etc. So I would say I'm more of the positive cheerleader, supportive, help you reframe situations. Hopefully that's helpful. What are some good ways to meet significant others? I'm going to speak to that one. I just saw it pop up. Well, first of all, my theory is it's both an inside and an outside job, meaning be sure you're ready. Be sure you've cleared your weeds and you don't have a lot of limiting beliefs or fears or old history that might get in the way. So I would say that work is really important. But I also work with clients. What are the action steps they can take to meet others? I think doing something like meetups. If you love to cook, if you love pickleball like I do, if whatever is your thing, get in groups that are doing those things to meet like-minded people. So that's one thing. I put myself out there on Match, actually. And the funny thing is, I'm a hiker. Well, I hadn't hiked in Florida, but I hike on retreats that I do. And my husband saw the hiking boots. He was a hiker and said, I'm going to call that one. So put yourself out there on dating sites. There's nothing wrong with that. Go to places that people who have similar ideas or values, whether it's a, something like a church or an organization. Those are some of the things I would recommend.
All right, thank you. And then we have a question that says, do you help provide advice as to what dating sites are best? I do. I mean, I would say Match because there's the most people and I met the one on Match. So that's what I would say. But there are others that have different focuses. So I would work with the person to understand what their desired result is and then make a recommendation. Yes. All right. And then it looks as though Susan has another question.
Oh, good.
Thank
you, Susan.
Yes, thank you so much for engaging, Susan.
Oh, this is fun. And I'm getting some good answers, so it's good. So how do you know when the one, how do you know that it's or he or she is the one?
It's a great question. And
I've actually not heard, not sure what the one, I think it means like the final one, but how do you know when you're done looking and you've landed on the one?
Yeah, it's a great question. Really great. And I will say I did not know that my husband was the one. Susan knows because she's one of my friends, and a few of my other girlfriends, I kept saying, not sure, I like him, What I did, and I really recommend, take your time. Some people meet their one and it's like, woo, he's the one. That wasn't my experience. I think getting to know, being best for, good friend, developing that friendship, having shared values for me was really important. The comfort level. I think the comfort level for me is really important. Just feeling like you can totally be yourself, and certainly someone who you have a great time with. I was looking at all kinds of things. How was he with my family? How was he with my friends? How was he about my work? Take your time. That's what I would say. And sometimes it grows. Sometimes they are not, you know, it doesn't hit you over the head immediately. And then all of a sudden, you know, this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with.
Thanks, Cindy. That's great. Thank you for that
Thank
answer.
you, Susan.
Thank you, Susan. We do have a couple more questions in the chat.
Great. Love it.
Do you have any practical tools that help navigate through times that a friend or significant other triggers wounds that they have no awareness of? Ensuring that I'm responding from a place of presence and not past, and communicating in a healthy way how what they said or did made me feel. Excuse me.
So let me try to make sure I understand this. So what you're saying is, what do you suggest when you're around somebody that basically triggers you? You're not, hopefully, you're saying you don't think you're operating from the past, but you are being triggered. Is that Justice what they're saying?
Correct. Yeah. Hi there. Yeah. So it's a matter of, you know, in the present moment, you know, say they say or do something that triggers an old wound in me, but it's not their fault, right? I want to make sure I'm not responding from past experiences, that I'm taking the situation in the present moment. So how, you know, what are some good tools to deal with that?
It's great. It is a great question. I agree with you, Jillian. So first of all, I view life as a learning experience. And if you can take a breath and go, wow, there's still maybe something from the past that is incomplete, so to speak. That's why, you know, it reminds me of what my mother used to say, or my last boyfriend, or da-da-da-da-da-da, right? Because you're referencing that, and you recognize that. So the first thing you can do is take a breath and go, wow, you know, almost like they call it sometimes the cosmic volunteer that pops up to trigger you again, to remind you there's a little work I need to do in this area. So that's one thing. I would take 3 deep breaths. I'm big on the 3 deep breaths. It resets your nervous system before you respond, or before you react, right? So you can respond. Know that unless they're being malicious or abusive or whatever, they probably are unaware. Maybe not respond in that moment to it, but later. And this is where this self-love comes in, and finding your voice. Many of us have suppressed our voice, but see if there's a way, in a nice way, to communicate to that person what you request in terms of that communication, or a different way. Maybe they can say it because this is how it felt to me. Is that helpful?
Yes, very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. And then we have a question that says, I recently heard on the news that, it's not a question, it's just a comment that says, I recently heard on the news that a local farmer's market location has become known as a place where people go to meet other singles. They all love Whole Foods.
I love that. You know what? My husband used to tell me he spends a lot of time at Whole Foods. He met a few women there before me. I think it's yeah. I saw a question pop up though from Hannah. Did you see that, Justice?
Yes, it says, how might you know if marriage is the right next commitment step for you? Struggling with questions from others like, you moved in together, when are you getting married and having kids? How can you step back from those expectations and discover what you want?
So great. You know, I really thought I was never going to get married. I didn't even think that was in the cards for me or wanted to. And I'm a big believer, you know, it's not necessary unless it feels 100% right. I always say to my coaching clients, if it's a maybe, it's not a yes. Until it's a yes, it's a no. So, you know, I'm sure they mean well, family, friends, whoever's feeling like they're pressuring you. But ultimately, this is such a big decision and it's yours. So maybe again, this is why I teach a lot about communication. There's a way to express to that person, you know, we're taking our time, you know, we'll let you know when the right time is for us. but follow your gut, follow your intuition. If it's not a yes, it's a no for now.
All right, here we have another one. Says, my partner and I have different styles of communication when we have a disagreement. I need space and time to process, but he likes resolution right away. I definitely do my best to advocate for space, but sometimes it's hard for me to even articulate that in a kind way. Do you have recommendations on how we can both have our needs met while moving forward with the discussion?
Totally. So one of the communication skills that I teach is scheduling a time for communication. You know, some people want to resolve it right in the middle of it, and others, like you, need space to, you know, process or decompress, whatever it is. I would suggest that you either work with a coach, and I'm available, or look into some communication tools and exercises that have ground rules. And one of the ground rules is we don't do it in the heat of whatever's going on. We're going to schedule a time to have this conversation. I would also suggest, I'm so sorry, I thought I turned off my phone and it just went off. I would also suggest having a conversation with your partner and explaining that that's your style, and when you're not in the middle of it. And could he respect this about you, but you're happy to communicate if you schedule it. That's what I would recommend, not in the heat of the argument, but ahead of time, figure out what your ground rules are going to be.
Thank you so much, Cindy. And it seems at this point in time, we've reached the end of the questions. While we wait, Cindy, is there anything you want to touch on while we give some people some time to write some more questions that may have come off of any of the previously answered ones?
Sure. I would say a key element for those of you that did join that are looking for a relationship, and even if you're already in one, was the that connect part of my 3-part modality, clear, connect, create. The connect is really taking some time, as I spoke about a little bit, to kind of reestablish your relationship with yourself and your, like I said, your magnificence. How do you do that? I have an exercise called your gifts, talents, and abilities. It's really called falling in love with yourself. And what you do is you list all the things that you bring to this world. What are your gifts? What are your talents? What would your best friend say about you? Write it down. Read it daily. I like to read these things before I go to sleep, so it really goes in. Because what this does, whether you're looking for love or you're in a relationship, it enhances your confidence. It enhances what you deserve. So you're not just going out with someone just to go out, but you're really strengthening that part of yourself, and also bringing that when you're in a relationship, so that you can have boundaries, so that you can say no when you need to say no. So that's something that I would suggest beginning to work with yourself or a coach on to really build up your confidence.
Thank you, Cindy. And then we have a question from Amelia that I will help answer, and then I'll hand it over to you, Cindy. It
Sure.
says, can we request you specifically as a coach? We do allow for coach requests. We do still encourage that you have that consultation to ensure that this is the correct coach for you. So I'll go ahead and drop that link again. That being said, if your request is relationship focused, Cindy is our resident relationship coach. So more than happy to make that connection if needed. And then Cindy, do you mind speaking to your training as a coach and where you got your certifications?
Of course. You know, first of all, my real experience is life, truthfully. You know, and as I said, I have written a very in-depth book. It's 360 pages with over 190 tools, techniques, guided visualizations that I use in my coaching. So I have taken many courses. I have been a student of personal growth for over 25 years. And so that's really my background. And I use a lot of my own life experiences. I owned a business, so I do have business experience. I had an event planning business in Chicago, but I have spent most of my life I've taken many communication courses, deepening my tools, so to speak, to be the best coach I can be.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Cindy. Does anybody have any other questions at the time being? What we can do while we give some people some time to write more questions, I can jump in real quick and talk a little bit more about our memberships in case this might spark some more questions, and then we'll hand it back over to you, Cindy.
Fantastic.
Give me 1 second. Oops, hit the wrong button. All right, so for those of you that are interested in taking this next step and ready to create a life you love, what if by next year you had healthy relationships that nourish your life, a career that you actually enjoy, confidence and clarity around how to achieve your goals, and at the end of the day, overall, someone just in your corner to help you as you work towards all of these. Our life coaches help you get aligned by defining the vision for yourself and the future, help you develop those meaningful goals and with a plan to achieve them, and understand yourself better by recognizing the blind spots that you may not even realize are there. And going off this alignment, they really help you embody that alignment by managing these transitions, creating healthy work-life balance, establishing healthy routines and boundaries, and really just identifying what derails you. And they also help you build your toolbox, develop courage, confidence, self-worth, reframe negative self-talk, build and strengthen relationships. And these are just a few of the things that are kind of central around this topic, but they do that and then so much more. And highly encourage you to all go look at some of our other coaches on our website. Give me 1 sec. I can drop the link here for that. All right. And then I'm also going to drop the link to our YouTube channel where you can see previously recorded webinars as well as our Eventbrite where you can see upcoming webinars. But if you're ready to jump into that, we, in addition to having our one-on-one coaching sessions, they come with a lot of bonuses. And so the first bonus is access to our Slack channel. And what's nice about that is it has all of our current clients as well as all of our coaches. So it's a really healthy environment we've been able to create where people post job descriptions, webinars, seminars, discussion posts, mindfulness tips and tricks, and just all sorts of things like that that really just help our clients out. And then in addition to that, since all of our coaches are in there, coaches that are constantly creating new content, for example, we have these weekly free webinars where the topic of discussion is always changing, as well as they're always making and sharing blog posts. And the other coaches on our team was to ever post something that kind of caught your eye, you wanted to lean into or potentially explore a little bit more about. You would then have the opportunity to substitute any of your sessions with your main coach with any other coach on the team. So we call that celebrity sessions, and our coaches love to share clients. So you really have access to all of the little niche skill sets that each of the coaches here at Vida can bring to the table. And that's something that a lot of people find a value in taking advantage of. And then the third bonus is members only events. Just how we have these events for the public, we also have members only events. We actually have one coming up that talks about cultural competency in the workplace in the modern day world. So super excited about that. But just something that's more exclusive and just members only as a way to say thank you and to dive deeper into the topics that we have expertise on. And then lastly is access to our full e-coaching program suite. What's really nice about these is there's countless different modules that a lot of our coaches have spent a lot of time and energy building out, and we're more than happy to share those with you. During this time, your coaches are going to assign you the modules that make the most sense for your coaching journey. But like we said, you have the entire suite of this. So if you get in there and start poking around and see the titles of some other ones that sound appealing to you, you have the access to do anything and everything you want to do just to kind of make up some groundwork in between those sessions. So there's a lot of really good content in there that we really have found a lot of value in for our clients. And then so all of those bonuses together value over $500, but our coaching sessions or our coaching membership starts at $339 a month. But you get your first session free if you come to us from a webinar. So we're super excited to continue a conversation further. And I did just see that Tanya mentioned that there was something wrong with my first link. So I'm going to go ahead and send this. If there is something wrong with this link again, let me know. But these also will all be sent out in the follow-up email. So everyone will have all the links there, and we'll double check and make sure that these all work for you. But we'd love to continue the conversation further. This is Cindy's email. This is my email. I just dropped the link for my consult again. If anybody really does want to get something off their mind, as Cindy did say, she is actively accepting new clients at the moment. So if anybody really does want to continue this conversation further with Cindy, we'd be more than happy to have that conversation. And I can speak truthfully, Cindy is a fantastic coach, and she's even coached some of the other coaches here at Vida. So it's fun to see it all come full circle. But Cindy, it doesn't look like we had any other questions that came up in the chat as I was going through that, but I would love to kind of hand this back over to you.
Sure. I thought of a couple more. Yeah, I thought of a couple more things I would love to share. First of all, if you're already in a relationship, but communication, let's say, isn't working or other things, I do work with couples, which is really fun. And I teach them, first of all, I've studied even the John Gray, the original Mars and Venus, and other work that explains the differences between the sexes. And it's so valuable. So I would say for you personally, you might want to start reading and studying that. We're not educated relationship, but if you did work with me, I would set up communication exercises, tools, acknowledgement exercises, all kinds of things that we do together to clear history and get that spark going again, or whatever is the issue to work on. And I have worked with some of the coaches with their partners, and it's great. I love it. The other thing is, the other aspect that I didn't go deeply into was the create. As we've mentioned, you can get on a dating site, you can go to a meetup, you can go to your spiritual organization, you can volunteer, et cetera, et cetera. But, I keep emphasizing the inside job. One of the things I love to do in all areas of my coaching is teach people how to really use visualization. The greatest athletes, from Michael Jordan to all of them, the top people use visualization. They see the ball going through the basket before it's even in their hands. So I like to work on that inner aspect of bringing in the one, or seeing your relationship the way that you want. I always wanted to travel the world. I just got back from a 3-week trip of Alaska, the redwoods, etc. And this picture in the back reminds me, because I went to my honeymoon, and this is from Maui. But I had a vision. I saw myself with a partner that had not manifested yet, traveling the world. And there's tools and techniques to use that. So yeah, it's an inside and outside job in relationship. Does that spark any questions or anything in any area of relationship? And it could be a relationship with family members as well. Justice, do we have any time left?
Yes, we do. I was just going to say, as you mentioned, we do also have a pair membership. So if you were interested in going through our coaching program with someone, be it a significant other, a parent, a colleague, anything, we do have a pair membership option as well. And then somebody asked me directly, is there a coaching commitment? We are a rolling monthly membership, so you pay each month, and you do have the ability to cancel at any time. But we do also have 6-month and annual options that do come at discounted rates. So if you're willing to commit to yourself up front, we do discount those prices as well.
Right. And the Justice mentioned the consultations. If you're not positive yet, or you're not positive on the right one or a different coach, we do consultations before you enroll. They're available to kind of check it out, and it really works well to see if it's a good fit, right, Justice?
Yes, they do. And then I did just get one more question that says,
Yay,
do you believe in divine timing as it relates to manifesting a relationship?
100%. But I also believe in preparation. So I believe in divine timing with everything. I think I had to go through everything I've gone through, and hope you won't have to wait as long as I did to find the one. But I think that there is divine timing. I do believe that. But in the meanwhile, fall in love with you. As I said, that's the foundational piece. Do that work and have a good time. I loved my time alone. It was hard at first to live with another, and now I love that. But take your time. This is a big, big thing in your life. And when you find the right one, it's amazing and phenomenal.
Here's an interesting one that says, how do you handle Ted Bundy types? Many women I know, including myself, have been repeatedly exposed to men who seem very charming, but also psychotic and pathological, and it wasn't revealed until years later.
Oh my goodness. Got it. Yeah, I understand. I have had, I had a long-term relationship that I didn't see the skeletons in the closet for a few years. And then it's like, whoa. But I think the more you get to know yourself, the more you get very clear and strong in your own values and what you deserve. You attract less of that. I also think taking your time, developing a friendship, seeing how they are in all circumstances in your life goes a long way.
All right. Well, it doesn't seem as though we have any more questions. So Cindy, if you want to sign us off here, and then we'll give everyone back a little bit of their time in their Wednesday.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you for allowing me to talk on my favorite topic. If life is anything, it's relationship. I've often heard people say, when they finally transition, it's not about how much money they had or their careers or whatever. It's who they loved and who loved them. And so, I just want to leave you with the most important relationship is the relationship with yourself. But once you've done that, be open. It can happen at any time, and it's never too late. And if you're in a relationship, water that fruit tree. And that's what I'd like to say. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Cindy. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us here today. We look forward to seeing you at a future event.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.